do you think, Mike, that we have become, in this nation, or really in the state, or for some politicians, just we've become very apologetic, and that entire law and order, or that entire discipline thing, it seems like it's gone out the door. I talk to, even as a parent, I interact with other parents, and it's like, oh no, Susie will be fine. Susie's just acting up, or we just, Susie this, Susie that. Oh, we just, and it's like, okay, where's the discipline? Where's the structure? And it's like, nope, no, she'll mold into, what she needs to be. And I think we get a lot of that from politicians who look at crime, who look at what's happening in the streets, and it's like, no, they were too hugged too long, or they weren't hugged enough. And we as a state need to provide them a safe haven, and let them, rehabilitate and find different ways to be better members of society. I mean, and for some people that works, but I mean, a lot of people it doesn't work. They're criminals. They commit
Right.
a crime. There's no that punishment, and I say this because right now, Shannon Grove, bless her heart, she is having a difficult time trying to get through the legislature what seems to be simple legislation, which is, if you go out and solicit sex with a minor, that you should be charged with a felony. And she's having a difficult time trying to get this thing through the legislature, and they're it's gotten to the point where they're negotiating on numbers. Okay, so a 22-year-old with a 16-year-old, that's okay, right? And so, or no, okay, anything under, for 22-year-old, anything under 16 years of old, then I'll let you do that. But here's the thing: is that person isn't going to be registered as a sex offender, and so they're going through this whole thing where they're negotiating of being able to purchase for sex minors. And it was interesting. You sent me over this article of Louisiana, where you've got some other people who are just taking a completely opposite direction.
A lapanectomy. Yeah, I mean, the
Yes.
government, they're passing legislation, and I think the governor's expected to sign it, that says, if you're convicted of, sexual assault on a minor, you can have chemical press. One of the penalties is chemical castration.
Yeah, and
Um,
I think it was a 12-year-old, right? It was a 12-year-olds,
yeah,
or
anybody
yeah.
under 12. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a completely different approach, which quite honestly makes a heck of a lot more sense to me than, saying, let's give them another chance or another shot or whatever. You're right. We do have that kind of situation where um, people in elected office look at it and say, well, they're enablers, is what they are. We talked about this once before in San Francisco. People that, the city gives out wine and beer, no, wine, beer, and vodka
Yeah.
to people who are drunk or alcoholics, because they don't want to, they want to make sure that they're not risking anything, and to get the bottle or the fix that they need in their alcohol. So we pay for them to get wine, beer, and vodka. It's an open bar in the streets of San Francisco. That's so that the people can feel safe.
But how
Um,
do we? What's your opinion? How do you think we got here? I mean, I know the in California, that was this whole idea that I would open up the door was, they said, okay, you've got overcrowding of prisons. They got in, a judge said, look, you've got way too many people in prison. So rather than go build another prison or two and house them there, they said, okay, we got to readjust the laws so that what are violent felonies now become felonies, what are felonies now become misdemeanors, and we reduce the amount of sentencing someone is in. And this means that it'll cost us less money because there'll be less people in jail, and we can save this money. And I don't know, I think they called it Safe Streets, or schools measure. And so they got the voters, they got a nice title. I think it was actually from Kamala Harris. They got this title and summary. Uh, and it went out to the voters, and the voters like, yay, I like nice communities, I like safe communities, and like good schools. So they voted for it, and now we're here.
I think that's I think that's one of it, but I also think that it goes past the government and policy stuff and just goes to inside people's homes and neighborhoods. that, there was, and I use this as the broken window thing that Giuliani did when when Giuliani was all there, and as the mayor of New York and was a great mayor in New York. You leave one broken window and it's going to lead to something else and lead to something else and lead to something else, and that's the same way in the household, where everybody wants to be liked, and that's not it doesn't always work. It also goes to the point of no consequences, where there are no consequences for actions that you do, and so you have all of these things that come together in a confluence, and it becomes the norm. And to your point, what they did is they made a conscious decision that prisons were getting overcrowded, and there was a policy decision made someplace, and maybe it wasn't even with elected officials. Maybe it was, we've talked about this. Maybe it was some government bureaucrats that decided, well, the best way to do this is to reduce the prison population, be able to free up people out of the prison to put more people in, but we don't make it any bigger. When obviously the answer should have been, looking at it in retrospect, the answer to the prison overpopulation is build more prisons.
Yeah.
Keep
Well,
people who you can't trust and who have committed crimes over and over and over again behind bars, and you don't let them out because not everybody is rehabilitated. And so that's the facts of life. It's the same way, I think, quite honestly, we've gotten to the point in terms of mental institutions. There used to be, mental institutions that were there to house people that could not take care of themselves, to get them off the streets, and get them into some place where they can't do themselves any harm, where they get taken care of, but that's it. And we got away from that because people were, it's dehumanizing and everything else, but these people are not capable of taking care of themselves. And so to me, building more prisons is a better thing than taking people who constantly commit violent crime after violent crime after violent crime and reducing the penalty for that crime and keeping them out on the streets. That is not common sense.
Well, it came around also. You've got a lot of these groups, like the prisoners, have advocacy groups of former prisoners,
Right.
and there is money that comes in from activists. There's money that comes in from foundations to fund some of these groups to try to, push for more um, rehabilitation programs, to push for legislation that decreases crimes. Like and so they lobby through Sacramento. One of the assembly speakers, his son, Fabian Nunez,
Right.
who, here in California, who was convicted of having killed someone because he wasn't let into a party. So he stabbed him, then and killed him, then came all the way over to Sacramento, dumped the knife in the river, and, was later on found and then convicted. Um, he's one of the advocates. He's part of an advocacy group that goes out and promotes, lesser prison sentences and or more lenient prison sentences. And like I said, they've got a lobby. And the interesting part is, I know there's Crime Victims United, but they don't seem to have as much as money or advocacy as the prisoners do. So
Right.
it makes it it makes
It's
it it, it makes it kind of a weird situation where, and it goes beyond just, we're getting soft here in California, but it's, or in other parts of the country, it's this mindset that is out there.
it's a total mindset. It's the mindset that says everybody, you know, it's a mindset that says everybody should take care of, there's the best that everybody can do, and let's give them third and fourth shots and all this other stuff. There are just basically people in this world that are bad people,
Yeah.
and they're not rehabilitated, and they're incorrigible. Um, and, you just have to deal with it that way. And you have these folks, and I think especially in places like California, that they look at it and say, oh, it's okay, and that's fine. They're starting to see some repercussions of that because people are getting tired of it. Because there's this, before it used to be, well, they got robbed. Well, look at where they were and what time of night they were there. that's that's kind of the thing. It used to be, well,
Or the loaf of
someone's
bread. Always the story of the loaf of bread.
yeah. What
Yeah,
tell
do
us
you,
the
do you, do
loaf
you
of
put
bread?
someone in jail for stealing a loaf of bread? That was,
Well, no, I mean, but these people. Well, that's the other one is you see people like AOC saying, "Well, these people are robbing people because or robbing these stores because they need it." It's like, and they walk out with 37-inch TVs. I mean, what are you going to, what do you need a 37-inch TV for? Or, the crazy thing that happened in LA with that young guy who was an actor. He's coming
oh yeah.
off working and somebody's there. No warning, no nothing. The guy stands up and shoots the guy in the chest and kills him. I
Yeah.
mean, those kind of people should never see the light of day again. But that's not what happens. That's not where we at. So I think as a result of that, you end up with the kind of society we have today, where there's excuses, where there's all these kinds of things to try and make it, well, they had too much sugar when they were little, and so they've got an imbalance or something like that. It's just excuses, and unfortunately, in some places, fortunately, in some places, the excuses don't cut the mustard. California is one place where the excuses do cut the mustard, and so you have all of this, not just rampant crime, but repeat crime that takes place. People need to stand up for that, and until they do, it's going to continue. You're going to continue to
You're right.
pay for beer, wine, and vodka for people, that need alcohol, and homeless people that need alcohol in San Francisco. You're going to continue to have a society where someone, as Shannon Grove is trying to prevent, who peddles in human trafficking, that they're not convicted of the worst possible thing. Again, I go where we started this whole thing with Alvin Bragg. If this guy can figure a way to take some misdemeanors and put them into a felony, which has never ever been done before, and get a jury to buy into this, can you do something about the people getting killed, mugged, beaten up on the subway of New York City, or in Times Square in the middle of the day, or stores being robbed, or anything like that which affects the overall good of the people in the community? It's just a matter of priorities that some of our elected officials have.
Yeah. Well, Mike, well, let's leave it here, and let's until the next time.
34-0, baby.